we don't need roads.
First of all, it was an absolute honor,
pleasure.
sir. Seriously, I'm such a massive fan. I feel like there's creatively that there would be a different approach to conducting music for a story to be told on stage versus a story to be told on film. What is the biggest similarity, the through line, the constant, and what's the biggest complete opposite ends of the spectrum difference?
Well, the similarities is that you're telling stories. So you have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, obviously. And within all of those, there's a lot of variables. The difference is that in film, first of all, it's stagnant. Once it's shot, it's done. The other part of it is that they don't need me for every scene in the film. But in opera, it's kind of like jazz, where it shifts a little bit every night. There are little nuances that the vocalists and the dancers will add to it that makes it a little different every night. And then every moment from beginning to end, there's music.
So if I see the show, because if I go see Defy Bloods, and I see it on a Thursday and I see it on a Friday,
it's gonna be
the same. If I see this show on a Thursday and a Friday, you're telling me it's a completely different animal? It's kind of ebbs and flows a little bit?
Well, it's not going to be totally different, but the performances are going to be different. Because one of the things that we talked about with what we're doing with this opera is that a lot of the singers who are African American come from the church, come from the R&B background, and a lot of times in opera they're told to turn that off and to do it the same way every night. Well, the thing that I've been saying is that, no, I want you to bring, and I understand that portion of it because when you sing at Puccini, this stuff wasn't created then. So, what I've been saying is we want to bring all of what you have to bring to bear on this production. So when you hear these singers, man, they're taking liberties every night, and it's a beautiful thing to witness because it all stems from how they're feeling that night. And so the emotion is real and the energy is just like electric.
I know this story is based on Charles Blow's memoir, but it's about a young man coming of age in Louisiana in the 70s.
Yes.
Very similar to your upbringing and where you're from. So to what degree were you able to put yourself in this story? Whenever I go see this and I hear the music, to what degree am I hearing your story?
A large degree. Because the things that I related to was the whole idea of the isolation or the loneliness he felt being a little different in the community. Even though New Orleans is a music town, my neighborhood was very much a sports-oriented neighborhood. So walking to the bus every Saturday with my horn in my hand was not the most popular thing to do in my neighborhood, and I caught a lot of flack for it. And also just in the neighborhood itself, being the guy who's playing classical music on the piano while all of my boys were outside playing football wasn't the most popular thing. Now, granted, it's nowhere near to the degree of what Charles went through, being ostracized for being a little different. But being from Louisiana and having those similarities, man, there's so much that I related to in his story.
Speaking of the story, I want to talk about the importance, and we've been getting more of it lately, but clearly still not at a place where we need to be, but the importance of getting stories that tell different walks of life that maybe I'm familiar with, hearing different voices, seeing the world through different lenses. And I feel like this is a perfect example of the kind of thing that we need 1,000 times more of. How far do you think we've come in terms of being able to tell more stories, and then how far do we have left to go?
Well, we're starting to make strides. The thing about the opera world is that they've understood this as being a major issue for a good while now. And you've seen composers really do Nixon in China or to do some current stories. But it seems as though, as of late, there's been an outpouring of these stories that have touched a nerve, with a lot of the public. And I think it's a beautiful thing because when I listen to La Bohème is one of my favorite operas by Puccini. You can tell that thing was written for that period. You can tell it was written for the people, the masses of that period. What we're trying to do now is do the same thing, but do it at a high level. Because the thing that I say about opera, man, I've been telling my friends, I said, listen, opera is the highest form of musical theater you could ever experience. And once they've come to see it, they go, wow, oh man, this is great. I said, yeah, because you have everything coming in to play. Visual arts, dance, music, acting, it's all there.
I want to talk about that combination of opera and jazz, because they're two things that you wouldn't necessarily think would go together.
Right.
So to what degree
Right.
do you have to kind of reassemble opera to fit jazz, and to what degree do you have to reassemble jazz to fit opera?
Dude, that has been the journey. You know, because when we did my first Opera Champion in St. Louis, everybody was a little nervous, you know, because I was asking them to stretch. They were asking me to understand how voices work. Because I could write for orchestras, no problem, but writing for the voice is very different. So there has to be a level of trust there, right? And what we're starting to see now with Fire, after we've done a few of these productions, is that there's this momentum building, you know, with these opera singers really wanting to engage the world of jazz in terms of what's happening harmonically, melodically, and then being able to put their own spin on it too, gets them excited about it. But for me, it's to be able to hear these beautiful voices in a hall that can fill a room. It's just like, it's an incredible experience, something I've never really witnessed to this level before.
I love that. I am a massive film fan, and I'd love to geek out for a few minutes about your film work.
Okay.
When someone like Spike Lee comes to you and says, I need you to tell the story of Malcolm X. I need you to tell the story of Vietnam veterans returning to Vietnam. I need you to tell the story of a black man infiltrating the KKK.
Sure.
Those are massive stories to tell with music. To what degree do you go, okay, let's get to work, and to what degree do you go, oh no, oh shit, that's it?
Yeah, it's more of that second one, man, because first of all, when I did Malcolm X, that was the second film I ever scored in my life. And literally, dude, I freaked out. I was like, whoa, because I didn't think he was gonna call me. I had done Jungle Fever, and I figured if this is a big movie, he's gonna call somebody else. But I just jumped into it and started doing a lot of homework in terms of looking at old scores of great composers that I love, watching movies, and trying to do a crash course in film scoring. But ultimately, the thing that I realized is that I just have to be honest about how I feel about these things, you know, because we're all human, man. You know, we all vibrate in the same fashion. You know, we all want to be loved. We all experience hate, you know, joy, anger, and all of those things. So for me, it's about being honest about how I relate to the stories. When you talk about the Five Bloods, for me, it's a very powerful story to think that these guys put their lives on the line for people they didn't know, to come back to not necessarily be celebrated in the fashion that other soldiers were. And now it made them go back to go find one of their fallen brothers, and while they were there, understanding their plight, took advantage of the situation with the gold. That's something that I can relate to, and I just try to make sure that whenever I'm dealing with those scenes, I don't avoid what it is that I'm feeling naturally.
You mentioned Malcolm X. Is there another example of a movie that was thrown at you that you most had to pause and go, how the hell am I going to do this?
Dude, Red Tails, when I worked with George Lucas. You know,
just that phrase, when I worked with George Lucas, it's such a cool phrase.
Yeah, well, it's cool now.
Now that the work is done.
Right, yeah, now that the work is done. I mean, because when it initially happened, man, I was like you. I'm like, it's George Lucas, you know? And when he brought me out to the ranch, it's kind of an intimidating, he doesn't mean it to be this way, but,
sure.
You know, it's an intimidating thing to go to a
walk
ranch.
by Chewbacca and walk by Darth Vader.
Yes. And, you know, and he's like, hey, how you doing? He's very nice, very accommodating. And he shows you the film, and it's amazing. And you sit there and you go, yeah, but you worked with John Williams. You know, now you're working with me? Okay. Thank you. No, but that was another time. But I have to say, man, you know, he was brilliant to work with, very nice, very supportive, and it was a great experience.
I want to talk about your work on what I think is one of Spike Lee's best films, which is 25th Hour.
Okay.
I feel like that film is maybe the best and only true interpretation of post 9/11 New York City.
Yeah.
I feel like he captured it in such a way that no other director has been able to do, and a big part of that is your work.
No, thank you.
How do you, I mean, that's such a specific moment in time, such a fascinating time capsule of post 9/11 New York City. How much did you, I guess the stupid question is, how did you do that?
Well, no, it goes back to the thing we were talking about earlier. I had left New York in '95, so I was there in '93 when they tried to bomb, well, not tried, when they bombed the Trade Center the first time. And that was a very unnerving kind of thing. And I remember, you know, when 9/11 happened, my mom called me and she said, turn on the TV. And I said, what channel? She said, any channel. But when somebody says that to you, you know this is something huge. And I was watching it, and as I'm watching it, the second plane hit. And I'm thinking of all of my friends that live in New York, all of the places that I've been to in that area. As a matter of fact, man, you know, I used to be a cyclist, and we would ride our bikes through there. You're not supposed to, but you know, we'd always hit a whistle. You know, the guys trying to chase us. And I kept thinking about that experience. So for me, again, it goes back to that human element of like being hurt emotionally, you know, and drawing on that to create the music. One of the things that we wanted to do is to honor the firefighters and NYPD. That's why you have bagpipes, you know. And in the beginning, we had to have this Islamic voice, you know, singing on top of what it was we did for the opening, because Spike had shown the two beams of light that was done in commemoration of the towers. So it's just a matter of bringing those elements to bear. And then when you see the bike that was left, you know, all of those things just break your heart. And I'm not ashamed to tell you that there have been many times when I've worked on that film, and Four Little Girls and a couple other things, where, dude, I have to step away for a little bit because I'm watching these scenes over and over and over again. And I have to take a break because it's emotionally draining. If
it hits us one time while we're in a movie theater watching, I can imagine drowning yourself in that in a way.
Well, think about this. I have to watch the scene like 5 times before I write music so I can get a sense of the pace of it. So I'm dealing with these things, and it gets to the point where you know all of the timing of what happens in a scene, and you know, after a while it can be draining.
I can't even imagine. This year's the 30th anniversary of Malcolm X.
Yes.
And it's so fascinating because I feel like when we talk about that movie, we talk about it as if it's the masterpiece that we all clearly know that it is, whether it's, you know, Spike's direction, Denzel's performance, your score. And then we're reminded that it didn't win Best Picture. That Denzel didn't win Best Actor. That your score didn't win Best Score.
Didn't get nominated.
Which don't even start with me on that. And granted, obviously the work's the work, and you can look at that work and go, you know what, it's a masterpiece, it is what it is. But was there that feeling when the Oscars kind of came and went that year that you just go, did you see the movie? Did you see what we gave you?
Well, I felt like that, excuse me. I felt like that for Denzel and Spike, for sure. Because Denzel, I thought was just, there were moments I was on set a couple of days. There were moments on set where it was really freaky, you know, because you're sitting there saying, whoa, oh, right, that's Denzel. You know what I mean? I remember he called me up on the phone and we were talking before they started shooting. And I said, oh man, you're getting ready for X? And he went into the speech over the phone. And man, it was really eerie, you know? So that part of it hurt. You know, for me, I wasn't expecting it because it was my second film. I felt like I was so new, so green to the business. But a friend of mine who was my mentor in the business, who passed on, Miles Goodman, he says, get ready, you're gonna get nominated. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not looking for that. And it didn't happen. But I'm still proud of the work, you know, because for it to be my second film, man, I did a lot of studying.
You told a life. You told the story of a life in music.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Obviously, you're very much influenced by the music of New Orleans, and just by nature of where you grew up and who you were. Chicago has its own flair of music, has its own style, its own flavor.
Yes.
When you hear Chicago music, what stands out? Is it Buddy Guy? What are the names that come?
Well, no, it's more so the blues. It's the blues. It's like Chico Freeman, some of the jazz musicians that I knew that came from here, man. You know, I'm drawing a blank on all of the names, and I'm seeing all of the faces.
I would say, and you know they're all watching, going.
They're gonna hate me, right? Yes. But no, I mean, Chicago's like one of those towns like New Orleans. It's like St. Louis. It's like Detroit. There's a lineage of music that has come from here. The drummer in my band, you know, the E Collective, his name is Oscar Seaton. He's from here, grew up in the church here. Some other great drummers, Gene Coy is another great drummer who I've played with, who's from here. So it's always how do I say it? You know, it's like when you come here to perform with your group, it's like you have to bring your A game.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention
Yeah.
because you know people out there are expecting something on a high level.
Absolutely. Would you tell me about your show on the 29th?
Yeah, we're playing this place called the Promontory on the 29th and the 30th with the E Collective and the Turtle Island String Quartet. You have to hear these guys. They are redefining what a string quartet is. I mean, we did this album called Absence, which was in tribute to Wayne Shorter, who's a great jazz musician, great composer. We wanted to show him how much we loved him. So we've been touring that music, and we've been having so much fun. I would ask a lot of people to come on out and check out the show.
Well, I'm going to come out, and you've now made a huge mistake because there's going to be a lull in silence in the show, and all of a sudden you're going to hear one person whisper, "That's my friend Terrence." we know each other very well. We're very close personal friends. And you're going to hear a lot of
Southern
people,
guys.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't tell, Mr. Blanchard, I'm such a
Hey,
fan.
man,
So
pleasure,
seriously, this was really
pleasure.
great. Thank you for your
Pleasure,
time. I
man.
appreciate you.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.